This week, to be closer to China, toilets, a taboo topic in Chinese tradition.
都可以谈制造啊，谈商业啊，谈出口啊，不愿意谈的厕，谁愿意谈的厕所呢？
Traditionally, Chinese focus on the toilet is to actually recycle the shit into fertilizer, and they call it black gold.
In April 2015, China's President Xi Jinping launched a nationwide toilet revolution.
我在节州来桂林旅游的游客的时候，这些人跟我说，桂林的山水太漂亮了，但就是呢，我们不敢吃饭，不敢喝水，不敢吃稀饭，就是怕上厕所找不到地方。
Now, almost 4 years have passed. How is the project working?
These are government entities who are working to structure network of industry players to move solutions that can be beneficial to people.
What challenges remain?
China's situation is very diversified. The biggest challenge is that how it can address the sanitation challenges for those populations living in the underdeveloped regions.
最大的挑战还是人们的观念，还是要让社会成员呢，每一位都真正的认识到厕所的重要性。
How are toilets changing Chinese society?
Eventually, we could put toilets into pop culture. Poop culture must become pop culture in the future.
This week, be closer to China. Toilets are taboo topics. They shouldn't be. While we all go there often, no one likes to talk about them. China says it is now in a new era, facing the principal contradiction between unbalanced and inadequate development and the people's ever-growing needs for a better life. For China to become a more civilized society, the hygiene of the masses must be improved, especially in rural areas. And for China's tourism industry to blossom, better bathrooms are needed. Let's be candid. Although China has become the world's second largest economy, toilets in poor rural areas are often still little more than makeshift shelters surrounded by bunches of trees and weeds, while others are open pits next to pigsties leading to contamination from human waste. Even in urban areas, many toilets give off a notorious odor detectable in hallways well beyond bathroom doors. In China, the toilet revolution has become a buzzword. The government has launched 2 successive 3-year action plans. How are they working? What challenges remain? To appreciate why the toilet revolution is a national priority is to be closer to China. As the traditional Chinese thought goes, the toilet as a place of impurity and ill luck is a very disrespectful topic, a taboo to speak about in public. Chinese people's lives. That's why, for 2 decades, toilets have been a priority for Li Jianzhao, Vice Minister of China's Ministry of Culture and Tourism. Mr. Li, the toilet revolution officially began in 2015, but background goes back much further. Give me a sense of the history and the background that led to the formal campaign that began in 2015.
中国的厕所革命啊。
China's nationwide toilet revolution started on April 1st, 2015, when Chinese President Xi Jinping launched the campaign. Before that, some areas did their own explorations, and these independent trials also proved quite valuable and worthy of review. One of the earliest explorations can be traced back to the 1980s, when Xi Jinping worked at the grassroots level, serving as party secretary of Jiangding County in Hebei province. Back then, latrines were open pits next to a pigsty. President Xi led Jiangding to reform toilets as its county secretary in the 1980s.
How familiar are you with the situation of toilets in China? Because historically, toilets in China, shall we say, have not been a shining area of expertise. So what's your understanding of this toilet situation here?
So traditionally, the Chinese focus on the toilet is to actually recycle the shit into a fertilizer, and they call it black gold. So farmers appreciate this very much. Over the years, the progress of China affluence has been very fast, but their toilet progress didn't catch up. So in 2004, when Beijing was preparing the Beijing Olympic, which is their coming of age event, they were worried that people wouldn't come because toilet reputation was no good. So they hosted World Toilet Summit in 2004, and I was the spokesman for them. They renovated 4,000 toilet blocks in the tourism attraction in Forbidden City, Tiananmen, Tiantang, Badaling, and also in the Hutong.
According to China Health and Family Planning Statistical Yearbook 2016, the coverage of sanitary toilets in rural areas has increased from 7.5% in 1993 to 78.5% in 2015. Though China has become the world's second largest economy, many toilets in poor rural areas are still little more than makeshift shelters surrounded by bunches of corn stalks, while others are open pits next to pigsties, leading to contamination and pollution from human waste. In 2000, Li Jinzhao, then the mayor of Guilin City, first led a toilet revolution in Guilin, one of the most popular tourist destinations in Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region. Let's discuss what happened in Guilin. Describe the situation before you began the revolution, and why you were motivated to do it, and how that process actually worked.
应该说，当时为什么
In the very beginning, many people didn't understand why we wanted to start such a toilet revolution, because our economic growth at that time was not so high, and the pursuit of a higher GDP seemed a more pressing issue. In this circumstance, the proposal of a toilet revolution was not acclaimed by everyone. My personal experience drove me to push for this campaign. While I was the mayor of Guilin and I wanted to use the toilet while on construction sites, I couldn't find a single toilet, even in the downtown area. I walked a whole street with no toilet in sight.
Guilin is known as a tourist city, so where should tourists find toilets? This is a practical issue. I couldn't find one even as the mayor. That was my personal experience. We must address this problem. In addition, tourists in Guilin told me that while our mountains and rivers are beautiful, they didn't dare to eat or drink because they were afraid that toilets would be nowhere to be found. It was a headache. It affected citizens' lives as well as tourists' comfort and convenience.
849 public toilets were built in Guilin tourist spots, averaging 5.7 tourist toilets per square kilometer, which was 90% higher than the national standard that year. 18 years later, in 2018, with the increasing impact of China's toilet revolution, Guilin's experience is still worth learning from. For a city like Guilin to properly serve the tourists and also the people, about how many toilets, order of magnitude, did you have to create to meet your expectations?
It anchors in the reality of each county and tourist spot. We aimed to ensure that tourists in Guilin could find a toilet within 10 minutes of wherever they were. Within scenic spots and along tourist routes, toilets should be readily available. The number of toilets is determined in light of the reality of particular county and scenic spots. In addition, we must manage these toilets well after constructing them.
So what actually did you do? I mean, how many toilets were built? How did the process begin? Because you were really a pioneer. There was no national edict. You had no federal government, central government support. So how were you able to do it?
We set up the Guilin Toilet Revolution Committee. As mayor of Guilin, I also served as director of the committee, with two of my colleagues serving as deputy directors. One of them is the propaganda minister of the Standing Committee of Guilin Municipal Party Committee, responsible for the urban toilet revolution. The other is the deputy mayor, responsible for the rural toilet revolution. The city authorities offered technical guidance. Our criteria was clean, sanitary and free of charge. That is what we asked for. Guidance to counties and city districts was provided with such criteria. Then we appraised the outcome through assessment. We proposed a model of covering toilet costs through market operations, that is, allowing local governments to grant corresponding commercial plots to people who build and manage toilets as a source of income. This model was practiced in Guilin for several years and is still ongoing.
Since 2015, China has launched 2 3-year toilet plans successfully. Between 2015 and 2017, China allocated 1.8 billion yuan, about $260 million to construct or upgrade 68,000 public toilets nationwide based in its first 3-year program of the toilet revolution. From 2018 to 2020, China plans to upgrade another 64,000 public toilets, with 47,000 toilets to be newly built and 17,000 to be renovated. So describe to me the first 3-year plan, what its objective was, what you achieved, not only in terms of numbers, but in terms of the quality of experience.
First and foremost, the most significant change was a radical transformation in the scenic spots. In the past, it was difficult for tourists to find the few available toilets. Now, we cannot say the situation has completely changed, but in general, toilet facilities at tourist sites and popular routes have seen a fundamental upgrading.
Meanwhile, over the past 3 years, the number and quality of toilets has increased in almost all Chinese cities. Access to toilets is now less of a concern for the general public. This is the preliminary result we have seen. More importantly, both the general public and tourists in particular have changed their understanding of toilets. They have started to value this issue more. People are starting to care more about the construction of toilet facilities and are being more disciplined in their use of them. For the first time, the party committee and government at all levels have given attention to the toilet revolution by including the campaign in their work schedule. We had reforms on water and toilets in parts of China. Starting from 2015, regional governments at all levels across the country have prioritized this issue. This is a big change.
In China's new era today, after the 19th CPC National Congress in late 2017, a new principal contradiction is a driver of policy. How do you see the toilet revolution as exemplifying the new principal contradiction?
Indeed, the main contradiction in China's society has changed. With respect to people's most basic needs of accessing toilets, generally speaking, the development is inadequate and unbalanced nationwide. The toilet issue is a typical case in point. Generally speaking, the number of toilets in China is inadequate. There are huge divides in the level of development between urban and rural areas, scenic spots and non-scenic spots, and suburbs and remote villages. This inadequate and unbalanced development is vividly reflected in toilet issues. Thus, the toilet revolution represents a crucial aspect of President Xi's governance of finding solutions to everyday problems. While having grand ideals, we must also be down to earth in our application. For a long time, people didn't want to discuss toilets, seeing it as a demeaning or unappealing topic.
It takes courage to talk about toilets. It takes courage for a president to lead a toilet revolution, and I applaud President Xi Jinping for doing that. At the same time, Prime Minister Modi is also doing Swachh Bharat in India building 110 million toilets. And as you can see, the toilet movement of breaking the taboo in 2001 has now grown into a big trend where leaders of big countries are actually spending money focusing on toilets.
When I realized in the very beginning that these are government entities who are working to structure network of industry players to move solutions that can be beneficial to people, this is actually the right business platform for any company here in China who really want to go fast, who really want to go big. So to have a partner here in the country who can do that is actually a very big plus.
People talk about manufacturing, business and exports, but not toilets. Who is inclined to talk about toilets? We all want to talk about the dining table and the kitchen rather than the toilet. It is a long-term issue. So, on April the 1st, 2015, President Xi officially launched the toilet revolution, which was welcomed by the general public.
With the toilet revolution in full swing, of the 57 million households who do not have their own sanitary toilet, 40 million can now use a public sanitary toilet. Yet, that leaves 17 million households who still have poor toilets and the consequential hygiene problems. What's more, for China to really change its traditional toilet culture, to improve its toilet civilization, as it's called here, especially at the grassroots, there are challenges ahead. You see the vision, you see how far you want to go, and to achieve the ultimate ideal in the future, what are the challenges that you face, or the obstacles to meet that ideal where toilets in China would be a sign of a very high-level civilization, something you're proud of, as opposed to something you're embarrassed about?
The biggest challenge is people's perception. Raising nationwide awareness of the importance of the toilet issue remains a challenge. China's toilet revolution has currently been going on for 3 years. People are more aware of this issue, but there is still a long way to go for it to be truly valued and recognized by the majority. China has a splendid history of over 5,000 years, but it also has some weaknesses. The toilet issue is one of those. Habits accumulated over the past 5,000 or so years cannot be changed in just 2 to 3 years. Thoroughly addressing the problem takes time.
I think the challenge now is to make sure that the quality of the quality of the toilet, when the human waste is processed, it is done properly. So if the government can adopt quality standards to make it a requirement that toilets should kill pathogens, and you can put that in places where you don't have the utility service like water or electricity or sewer system, so toilet that can operate without all these facilities. If the government can adopt standards, I think it will drive more the industry to come forward with really the right solution.
China's situation is very diversified. If you look at the eastern region, and the sanitation situation is much better than the middle part and the western part, and the urban area is much better than rural area. The biggest challenge is that how it can address the sanitation challenges for those population living in the underdeveloped regions.
Where do you see the toilet revolution sort of reaching its optimal? How many more years do you think it will take?
I believe there will be huge progress made after we fulfill the new 3-year plan, but it is still not enough. The campaign should continue. In my opinion, we still need to carry on the toilet revolution over the next 20 years.
Over the past years, China has made substantial progress in developing sanitary toilets in both rural and urban areas. China has learned lessons as well. Today, I've invited Jack Sim, founder of the World Toilet Organization, called WTO for short, to give his perspectives on China's toilet revolution and on its influence globally. Jack has a grand vision how improving toilets improves the world. It is a delight to watch how one human being, without the levers of government or corporate power or great personal wealth, can make such a positive impact on humankind. Jack said that, based on his experience working with Chinese schools, the cost of building a new sanitary toilet in China's rural area is around 100,000 yuan, and of renovating one is around 50,000 yuan. From 2015 to 2017, China allocated roughly 200 billion RMB, roughly $3 billion. How do you see progress recently focused on tourist sites in the country that apparently 68,000 different locations?
I'm actually very impressed with the China tourism toilet revolution, because the reality is that to change culture for toilet is actually rather difficult. But in the last 3 years, I've visited a lot of tourism toilets in third-tier cities. I went to Xi'an, I went to first-tier cities, I went to quite far away tourism places, and I realized that the toilets are clean despite big crowd. So it is very possible that if you learn from the tourism toilet cleanliness, you can start to spill over to the others. However, when I go to rural homes, then the toilet is very pathetic. Yet, their houses are beautiful. When I went to rural schools, the frontage of the schools are very beautiful, and the toilet is still the dry toilet, is called hanche. And so I started a new program called Rainbow School Toilet. And in Henan, we built 13 Rainbow School toilets.
That's great. So when you funded the 13 originals, where did the funding come from?
There was a Singaporean businessman who wanted to return to China to help build toilets. So he looked for me, and he funded every year about 1 million renminbi. And now we are hoping to raise some of funds locally from the other philanthropies and even the government in China. We'd like to talk to the Ministry of Education to make this a ubiquitous program all over China.
What's the approximate cost for creating first-class toilets in poor areas? How do you determine the cost per unit or per stall or for the whole toilet?
So the costs are two kinds. One is the hardware, and the other one is the maintenance. The construction costs of toilet, they are all done by local technologies, and we just use septic tanks and things that are locally available. The price is according to each different location and the salary level and the material cost. But the maintenance, we ask the student to clean it themselves. The student told me that the first time when they saw that this toilet is under construction, they were peeping and they were very surprised that, you mean we poor people can use this kind of ceramic tiles flush toilet? And eventually when the toilet was open, they were very afraid to use it for fear of damaging it. But after a while, when they start getting used to it, their pride raised. And this raised their aspiration, their self-image, and they start to think of themselves, I'm like anybody in the city. I can be a great person because my toilet now gives me the dignity.
As China will achieve, in all likelihood, a moderately prosperous society by 2020, good toilets, flush toilets, are a critical part of it. You can't claim to have eliminated all extreme poverty in China and be a moderately prosperous society if people don't have good toilets and flush toilets. So if you project forward to the year 2020, near future, how do you see China's toilet revolution changing society?
I think toilet has to be seen in a larger context of economic development. Includes being healthy, productive, and skilled. I think these are all coming into reality. For example, Taobao villages, which is about e-commerce, they are actually able to pack fruits and producers in the village and sell directly to the consumer through logistics, through e-payment and online purchase. That will bring a lot of wealth to the villagers. And they don't have to go through the middleman in the supermarket. And so I think that this kind of wider context will make people have more spending power. And of course, the toilet is actually the cheapest medicine in the world. When you prevent illness, you save doctors. You also don't have a loss of working days because you have to stop work to bring your children to the doctor and yourself if you are sick. And therefore, if we are thinking forward, I think that all China toilet will be the same as Singapore toilet. And the country's self-image will improve a lot because toilet is dignity, toilet is pride, toilet is health, and toilet is an economic driver.
We are seeing China becoming a leader with an engagement with the local industries to make sure that company can come up with very innovative solutions to make access to sanitation very safe.
We think that China can do more work to trying to establish a new industry, a new sanitation industry that can, make sure the whole industry, the whole world can step into a new age.
I hope eventually we could put toilets into pop culture. Poop culture must become pop culture in the future, and toilet become fashionable.
Toilets are well labeled the barometer of civilization, and China has well determined that sanitary toilets are essential for a moderately prosperous society, China's goal for 2020. For tourists, public toilets make an instant and lasting impression, characterizing the entire country. In late 2017, right after being re-elected as Party General Secretary of the CPC, Xi Jinping called for China to continue to upgrade the country's toilets as part of an ongoing toilet revolution campaign. When visiting rural areas, Xi often asked local residents about the conditions of their toilets, stressing that clean toilets are vital for building a new countryside. Xi's point is probative. Challenges remain, obviously insufficient funding and regional imbalances, but also weak sanitary awareness. China's toilet revolution exemplifies how the new principal contradiction drives policy, addressing the contradiction between unbalanced and inadequate development and the people's ever-growing needs for a better life. China is now the largest toilet market in the world, and with its experience, should help developing countries improve their sanitation facilities. According to a 2015 UN report, 1 in 3 people worldwide, that's 2.4 billion people, still use poor sanitary facilities. With respect to toilets, I want to applaud 2 individuals. President Xi for not caring that some may think talking toilets downgrades his dignity, and Jack Sim for his vision, humor, and irrepressible energy in bringing toilets into the global discourse, greatly improving global health. Following China's toilet revolution and watching it expand worldwide keeps us closer to China.